So today, in this video, I'm going to rehash or go through all the challenges that it took to work on those two 300-gallon tanks that were built in the wall for my friend to restore them back to normal. They were definitely, one was really abused, terrible, and the other one was just dry docked for years. So let's get into it. So today, folks, I want to kind of go back down memory lane, so to speak. If you've been watching my channel, you know that I have been working for a friend of mine recently, well, in the past few months. And they have two 300-gallon aquariums that are built into the wall. And it started out with the first one. It was an emergency call. Hey, we got water leaking. It's a 300-gallon tank, and we got water leaking all over the floor. And this is a business, so hey, I need help. So I get down there. I see they've already removed the fish out of there, and they've drained much of the water that they could. Still had probably 6 inches of water in there, and it was still leaking. So I go up underneath this tank and I go look in, and it's leaking at the Eheim canister filter. So that was the first challenge. So we get all the rest of the water out of the thing, and I take the filter out, and we go through this process of trying to figure out what's going on. Long story short, the actual Eheim filter pump that sits on top of the Eheim canister, and it literally wore a pinhole through it. Here's the problem. So here is this Eheim pump, and when it was all together, the pump was leaking right in this area. And let me show you, this is the impeller. You see all them grooves cut in there? This is the motor, and it needs to be cleaned. It's got a bunch of junk in it. These tanks are 20 years old, and the hole was dripping water out of it, and so it was making a big mess. Anyway, so a little bit further on down the road, I'm going to show you pictures as I'm talking of the stuff that I went through and the challenges I had to deal with. So first thing is, let's get this canister out of there. So the valves that are underneath there, like I say, this tank is 20 years old. Well, none of the valves worked. I mean, they shut off, but they didn't shut off. You know what I mean? They were still leaking. They were wore out. So that's challenge number one. So we get all the water drained out. We get the water shut off with the valves. Now we got to replace all them valves because they're virtually no good. We drag this Eheim canister filter out, no problem. And I open it up and I'm like, oh, golly, the worst filter I've ever seen. I don't even know how water passed through it. Folks, this is the nastiest freaking doggone canister filter I've ever seen. So the next thing is this thing has a sump. So the way the sump was set up in this thing, I couldn't get it out from underneath it to clean it. And it's filthy. I mean, it's filthy, just like the canister is. So we couldn't get the lines broke loose from the pump. They're just corroded shut, and I didn't want to break anything. So we just left it as it is, and we tried to clean out the sump the best we could, which was not very good. So this is the sump. It is a Oceanic trickle filter model 25 or something like that. And we're taking it apart right now. So this is basically a trickle sump. It trickles it onto that box and then through all these bio filters and then into here to this chamber. And then put the light over here. It goes into this port, which then gets pumped back out here. So we are going to be able to use the sump for sure. Long story short, we went through a process, and then I got the canister all done. I put all new media inside it, cleaned it up really good, put sponges in it, put some lava rock in it, and it works really good now. So, all right, there's the first coarse pad stuck in there, and then I have some medium and some fine right behind it that I got to cut and put in it, and then we're going to test it. I thought I was going to test it without it, but now that I got the right O-ring for the top lid, that's going to work. So I think we're going to be good. All right, folks, so now I have a coarse, a medium, and a fine sponge cut and stuffed in here, and now I gotta put the top grate on and then the top, and first we're going to fill it up with water. The next thing we had to do is clean the inside of the tank. So what we did, these two tanks, they're drilled in the bottom, so you have two holes, and they're probably like this in the tank, you know, a foot in from each end. One is a output from the E-Heim, and the other one is the suction line for the E-Heim. And then there's a weir, or an overflow, whatever you want to call it, and there's 3 holes there. 2 of them are drains, and one of them's the spray bar, or the spray nozzle to put the water back into the tank. So inside the weir is all sorts of media. The E-Heim makes this thing called BioBale. You'll see a picture of it. So I took all that stuff home and cleaned it, and man, just a mess it made at my driveway, but it was crazy. I measured this tank, so it's 8 foot by 30 tall, 24 inches front to back. We used my Irigugu glass scraper to clean the glass, and now we can actually see through the tank. So we can start. I just literally climbed in there and just rubbed my hands around, moved all this substrate around, get all this muck and guck and everything cleaned up. And while we're pouring water in and I'm stirring it up, we got a sump pump pumping it out. So it's cleaning and sucking out the dirt all at the same time. So that was quite the challenge. And we got it all done. Took a couple days for it to clear up. And we put the rocks and stuff back in it. Now this tank, the guy that called me, he had already pulled the big rocks out of there, and he put them in a trash can and filled it full of bleach. So they'd been soaking for however long it took us to get this tank back revitalized. You know, the tank looks really good. The filtration is working really good. So this is the initial first 300 gallon, and as you can see, that water is still crystal clear. I tested the water today, and the water is perfect, and it's doing great. So the filtration is working really good. It's awesome. So that brings me to the second tank, which I wasn't planning on doing, but the owners of this place was so happy in how it came out, and they were so impressed. They said, "Hey, well, what about the other one?" I kind of hesitated because that tank had been sitting for I don't know how many years dry, and it was dirty and it was nasty. We'll put pictures in there, you'll see it. And so I told them, I says, okay, let's give it a shot. So when we got started on it, the first thing I wanted to do is get all the rocks, the wood, and the big boulders that were in there, get them out of there so we can see what we're working with. And we did that, and it was hard. These are big rocks and they're heavy. So we got all them rocks out, and then we ended up putting the tubes back into the inlet and outlet for the E-Heim, and put about 4 or 5 inches of water in the tank just to see if we got any leaks. So today's the day we're going to start putting water in this thing. We're going to pump water in and pump water out at the same time while I'm inside stirring up all the substrate to get all the dirt and crap out of it. And before we do that, we're going to put about 4 inches of water in this thing, and we're going to make sure we don't have any leaks underneath, because this tank's been sitting for a long time. So let me get to it. So here we go, folks. This is the initial start of putting water in this thing. So Houston, for sure we got a problem. So this tank is leaking, and all the fittings that go through the bottom are what's the problem. So now I got to drain this whole thing. You know, when we put 4 or 5 inches of water in it to test it. Good thing I tested it. Well, sure enough, we got leaks. So the holes that are drilled in the what do they call them? Bulkheads, that's what they're called. So the bulkheads were leaking. Not all of them, but 2 or 3 of them were leaking. So if we're going to do it, we're going to do all of them. You know, it doesn't make sense to do 1 or 2 and then find out later the other ones are leaking. So we ordered bulkheads. We had to move all this substrate around. We took a bunch of substrate out so we had room to work, and ripped out all of the bulkheads and everything. And there you go, folks. First one knocked loose. And there's still a bunch of water in here that we couldn't get out. You can hear it draining. But that's what we're looking at. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that thing out with that angle on there or not. And it don't come unscrewed, so we'll see. There's the first bulkhead that's pulled out. That's what it looks like. So what they did with this tank, whoever built this tank, they cut a huge hole in the tank, and then they siliconed a piece of thick glass to the bottom of that hole that meets the size of the bulkhead. So kind of crazy what they did instead of just drilling the right size hole. But neither here nor there. But it'll all be sealed up when I'm all done with this thing. All right, folks, there's all the plugs taken out of the bottom. This is the return for the sump, and all these bulkheads have been removed. We're going to put new ones in, new PVC. So let me show you what it looks like from the inside of the tank. So this is the inside. This is the actual return line that goes to the Eheim canister. And there's one on the other side, looks just like this. I'm not going to show it to you. And then there's 3 in this thing, and you got the 2 returns from the overflow that return to the sump, and then the small one is the return back into the tank. So we got to clean all this out, get this thing all dried up, get new bulkheads, and start from fresh. So actually it's a good thing that we had to do all this, because I wouldn't have noticed this until we got full of water. But look at this. This was the return to the sump, and it's just taped into the thing, just like this one. It's not in there tight. It's in there like with tape. So somebody really chinched on that deal. But this is all the hosiery plumbing that I'm going to have to replace. No problem. Put new bulkheads in there, resealed it, and I had to replumb the entire underside of the tank. And this particular tank, you know, replumbing it, it's hard because there's not much room to get in underneath the tank, and I'm a fat boy, so it wasn't very comfortable anyway, but we managed to get it done. Trust me, my back definitely hurts doing this kind of stuff, and I don't want to do it again for sure. But when you tell somebody you're going to do something, you know, keep your word. So that's what I did. So this is the outflow from the Eheim canister that goes back into the tank. That is the new bulkhead and sealed. Let's go look at the others.
And this one is the suction line for the Eheim canister. And then over here, these are the 3 for the overflow. So you have 2, the big ones, 1-inchers. They go into the sump, and then the small one is the return that goes back to the tank. So that's what we accomplished yesterday. So today, what are we doing? Today, we're hooking all the plumbing and gluing all the plumbing back in and going from there. So, I'm sitting up underneath here. This is the progress we made so far. So we've got the joints glued into the bulkheads, those 3. And this one right here above my head. And I've got the 2 tubes that go all the way over this way. Sorry about my camera footaging. And these will go down to the sump. And I put a little piece of strap there to hold them up, and so they're not hanging down and causing pressure on the system. And over there, as you can see, I've got the outflow for the Eheim. It's connected and just hanging. I got to put the filter in there. So the next things we got to do is hook hoses to here to the sump, and then hoses from this fitting all the way over to the Eheim. And all right, folks, a little bit more progress here. So we have the return from the sump, this hose closest to you, right here to the pump. And the pump's all connected down below. Hard to see because I'm upside down right now. And by 2 tubes that go to the sump. And then they're connected with some vinyl tubing that drops the water into the sump. So this end of the tank is pretty much complete. Alrighty, folks, so we're all connected underneath here. This is the Eheim. We got the quick disconnects. It's all plumbed in, that way. It's all plumbed in up to the top, as you can see. So all the plumbing down below has been completed.
Anyway, so we got everything replumbed. I put different valves on the Eheim and the pump that pumps the thing out of the sump. I was able to get this sump out from underneath there, and we took it home and I cleaned it really good. And it was super nasty. All these bio balls that are in there, they were just packed full of garbage and junk. So we got all that done, and then the next thing we did is we'll go inside the tank again, and just like I did the other one, stir the water up, pump new water in, and pump the old dirty stuff out all at the same time. We did all that, and no problem. We get the tank, and we get it back up and running, and we fill it up, and we let it run for a couple days, and it's cloudy and dirty, and it's trying to cycle. All right, folks, so the leak test is on. We're putting water in, and it's slowly creeping over this way. Hi, folks. No leaks. Centerpiece right there that goes back to the Eheim. No leaks. And then way back there, that guy has no leaks either. So the water test is good. Alrighty, folks. So we're almost halfway full. We're going to go maybe another inch or 2, and then we're going to call it quits and let the filter run overnight. And then tomorrow we'll come back in and we'll put the rocks in here and finish putting everything together and getting the sump and everything working and running. And then it's a matter of getting the water treated and set up for fish. Alrighty, folks, we are filling it all the way to the top now. Got the rocks in there, everything, so we're going to fill it and get the sump and the filters and everything all kicking and get this thing going and treat the water and all that fancy stuff. Well, long story short, the tank is up, and then this tank took a couple weeks to actually cycle and clear up, and the fish are doing good in it. And I was over there just yesterday, and the water tested perfect. It's great, so I'm really happy with it. Finally cycled and cleared up, and it took about a week to get this thing cycled, and then I threw all the excess media from my sump into this sump and put some plants in here, and looky there. And from here on out, it's just a matter of, every couple weeks go down there and check on the tanks for them and test the water and make sure everything's good. And if it needs water change, then we'll do a water change. But as it stands right now, both tanks are done. I am happy with that. I'm happy with the results. The results came out great. The fish look great. And I think the next video that we'll do is maybe, say, 4 or 5 months down the road. We'll do an update on how they're lasting, how they doing. Are they doing good? So stay tuned for that. And I appreciate you just kind of reliving or rehashing my journey through these 200-300 gallon tanks and the process it took to get them taken care of. That's the bottom line. I love fish, and you try to help folks when you can and where you can, and that's what I did. So alrighty folks, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and y'all have a great week.